What's cracking? I am Nick Danger, and you're now tuned into the art. Welcome to the channel, and thanks for watching the video. Like, share, subscribe, and do me a favor and leave it all in the comment section before you get out of here. Yeah. So, just a little MV video here. MV Mob checking in with a little bit about the Verselab, some comments I heard in the group, and a couple of comments I got in on my video about the MV-1 Verselab and something that I mentioned about it. So, let's get into it. The MV-1 Verselab is fairly... It's a complex item, but it's only because it does a lot of things. It's not a complex unit to operate, but it has a lot of little hidden tricks and whatnot. And I think it really is growing on me as far as the workflow, but that's because of what it represents for me. So a guy kind of said, well, claimed that every song that he heard posted in the Verselab community was garbage. First of all, that's pretty condescending and pretty bold of you to shit on everybody's work, but I don't think he really meant that it was actually garbage. I think what he meant was that it just wasn't the typical sound pack driven trappish material that you hear on other units all over the internet, right? Because most of what you hear is the same, and there's a reason for that. You know, you got tons of different brands that just sell templates and sound packs that go perfect with the unit, and they're just kind of swapping. It's kind of a little in community commerce driven thing that we got here with sample packs and stuff like that. But with the MV-1 Verselab, it's more of a diverse group of guys from what I see. It seems like to me that a lot of the Verselabs, for one, world music and electronic music, period, seem to dominate the constituency, and less of the boom bap. Even though you do got some boom bap guys around, but it's not as much of that as it is the world guys. Guys like Altar Beats and Chelsea Rose are good on the MV. I mean, their music compositions are complex and clean sounding, and I don't know what he's hearing, but anyway, it poses a question to me, is that what are people expecting out of this thing, right? So let's come from a perspective, a personal, and you can apply this to your situation as well, right? Me personally, and I'm gonna show you this shortly, that this basically is my entire studio in one box, minus the super sampler, which is why the mainstay that I supplement this with is not another keyboard sound or not another synthesizer, but rather the SP555, which is coming in right here. That's what that is. Now, it cut cost by not having the big screen, which is what everybody wants, but you have access to something like this. And to me, this is great because just like the MV-8000, I use both of my hands. So one hand is dedicated to over here, another hand is dedicated to anything I need to drag and drop right here. And sitting in this specific position with this station that I have pictured here is how I usually work when I'm working strictly on here. Now, I do have a stand that props this up, and sometimes I'll actually drop it and use it with my MacBook Pro instead, and use the big 60-something inch monitor to do the work with, and you'll see me do that occasionally as well. But another comment that I want to address other than that was the fact that somebody interpreted something I said on one of my videos about the MV-1 and being able to import or port over Integra type stuff over here, and I didn't want to come off like you can actually just, you know, drag and drop some stuff out of your Integra 7 over into the Verselab. So let me clear up what I meant by that, right? So one of the things that I always mention is that the supernatural sound engine from the Integra 7 was what I call Zencore Beta. It's the precursor to everything that they're doing now. You had the Axial website where you could download settings so you can have all these studio sets in addition to the 8,000 or 8,500 sound that you get stock on the Integra 7. You could download the 16 tracked studio sets from the Axial website that sounded like the Juno, the SH101, the TB303, all kind of vintage sounding synthesizers right inside the Integra 7, and you just keep it on a flash drive, right? And even some of the, when you come here, if you go to your default syn effects like reverb, the first thing that comes up is the Integra 7 reverb. So that's a port over directly from the Integra 7. It's one of the reasons people didn't like the way the 5080 that's inside the Integra sounded. They thought it sounded too clean because the outputs were being output through the Integra 7, which put a little bit of that Integra reverb on everything. And you had to shut that off. But that's featured right here as one of your default reverb syn presets on the Verselab, apparently, right? Another thing is that in addition to a lot of newer sound, especially when it comes to the drums, the Integra 7 ported over several Roland classics. And let me show you how that plays out. So you can hear a couple of them here, but let me come over here and load this other track up where actually I was using. Let's see, get this off the screen. And I'm going to load up this project. So I've talked redundancies before when it comes to using certain equipment, and one thing that the redundancies of certain patches, we all write music in our head when we're away from the studio, and more than likely you're writing in a tone that you've already used, already heard before. And it's cool to be able to, if you're away from your studio, go right to that sound, right? You go right to that sound and you're able to get a vibe and you know exactly where you want to use it, right? So as I demonstrate, one of the quicker ways that I've learned to use the MV-1 Verselab is by using the pattern sequencer with the TR style step down here, right? So this is the track I've done before, but I want to highlight the fact that one part of the song that it's based around was based on a patch that I've been using for probably like 20 years in my own home studio in my compositions, right? So if I stop it here, the sequence, this section here. Okay, so let's go to sequence, let's go to this sound, and there you have the JV solo. Let's get over here. Let's turn it up on the board a little bit. So this is a sound that I always hear in my layering on many different occasions, right? So over in MV-1000, here's a sample of the same sound from the 50-50. So that's from the 50-50. Here is the exact same sound, the same patch being used in a composition that lives on my MV-1000 with the Integra 7. Let's see how we get this. Listen, there it is right there. Same patch. Just a little piece of the keyboard part in a totally unrelated composition. Now, I say all that to say, this is what I mean by you can port over things that you're working from your Integra 7, or if you have that in your arsenal, over into the MV-1 Verselab, and it matches because it's the same patch. And you have several of the classic Roland patches inside the 3000 stock sound set that comes inside the MV-1 Verselab, right? Now, that being said, those redundancies make it so much easier if you're already used to how Roland likes to set things up, or your particular keyboard or whatever you got going on right there, right? Now, one thing about this particular unit that is fresh and new to me is this part. Now, I step record all the time in my MV-1, in my MV-8000, but not quite just tapping on stuff like this, right? So basically, boom, I hit the kick. As you can see, I've laid it on 1, 7, and 13. Boom, 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 right? You see I took that snare, put it on the 9s, right? Yak, 9, 9, again, 9, 9, you know what I mean? So, hi-hats the same way. Easy peasy lemon squeezy to just lay something down. And that's how all of this was created. Now that I know where these are, I scrapped the entire beat, and what I did was I changed the key of the song to D sharp, right? And then moved around some instruments and loaded in some fresh patches, something I may have been feeling a little bit more. And once again, you see the same thing, okay? So here is a kick, but I've placed on a 1 and on the 13 instead of 1, 7, and 13. So it's boom, 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 boom. And you hear the key of the song has now changed, right? Same tempo, same basic patterns. If I hit the snare, if I take it there, let me see. That one, kit, the snare is still on the nines, you know? 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, you know? Everything is still in the same place, only it's rearranged. And these two compositions were made back to back with each other right around it. It only took about 5 to 10 minutes to really come up with them before I started rearranging things to create a process of making those two tracks were like that. It was that fast, right? That's what I mean by redundancies and being able to port over some of your work if you have the kind of setup that I have. So if you have stuff like any Roland 5080 or Tegra 7 or Phantom, you're going to find a lot of the same sounds in here that you can actually just say, oh, okay, I can just move that work on over there, and it'll all match up because you have sounds that kind of fit the bill. And to all my MV-8000 guys, this, as far as a unit, this part alone, each track getting its own EQ compressor and reverb and delay send is an upgrade from the internal track system from the MV-8000, which is good. That's a great 3-band EQ inside there, and the reverb and delay send works great, and it's top grade. But you have to move the M effects around, which actually adds to the character of the MV-8000 because you can do what you want. You can just simply move the effects around and keep resampling and sampling the input or put it on a bus. But on here, everything gets its own of each everything, because even once you divide these songs, all these clips get their own M effects. So you can affect these anyway, just like I was doing, testing out the effects a minute ago on a part. I'm just trying to make another part to this song, you know, and you can do this and move around and don't have to apply them effects everywhere you go. Now, you don't have all the sequencing tracks, but to be honest, in today's music, you really don't need all that much. And with the way the technology is, like I said, this is a lot of Roland stuff in one box, and I mean, for the cost, I would have to give it a look. And every time I think about it, when I see some of the guys on the MPCs and I'm seeing what they're doing, I'm actually kind of like, okay, I have something different, and it sounds good, but it influenced you to work a totally different way than you would, and it's for usually no less than 45% of the cost of the other thing. And I can't see one thing that Roland left out that would justify the uptick that I would pay more for, except for maybe the sampler. But that's going to be something that I haven't really touched on yet as much, simply because I'm learning to use the 555 with this. And with the looper and the sample time that you get with a supplemental sampler such as the 404 Mark II, even probably the MC series, or even like what I'm using, 555, it really doesn't really matter that much. And the fact that I'm going to pretty much be using this straight with the Zenbeats DAW as well. So I'm not worried about interfacing too much outside of here. And because of this right here, you can take this entire studio somewhere else with you, and it's the equivalent of anybody walking in with their laptop and their FL Studio or their MPC software or anything. So once again, man, the MV is in effect, man, and I really think I like this piece of gear. It's something to get used to, and you have to craft your way around a new way of thinking. But I think it is forward thinking, and it doesn't do nothing but add to your toolkit. As for mine, it adds to be able to take my studio and be my studio home away from home, right?